Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajadana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanamchari. Yamuna Tira Vanamchari. Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe.
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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada,
Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada,
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada.
Gaura Pivanindi. Jayam Vishipad Paramahamsa Tri Rajgachadya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Shirabai Charanarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skanda Biti Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Taksurinmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vitam Hai Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Deshabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayana Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Narajaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Tato Jaya Mudiraye.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the Supremost Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayasa bhadreshu
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Shevaya
Bhagavati Tamasloke
Bhagavate Uttama Slake
Bhaktir Bhaviti Naistiki.
Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki.
By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, then the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil, and the loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama
Idam Bhagavata Nama
Puranam Brahma Samhitam
Purana Brahma Samhitam
Uttama Shloka Charitam
Uttama Sloke Charitam
Chakara Bhagavan Rishi
Chakara Bhagavan Rishi
Nishreyasaya Lokasya
Shasya
Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat.
Dhanyam Sasayanam Maha.
This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantara, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Sri Advaita
Sri
Gadadhara
Advaita Gadadhar
Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Hare
Rama
Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Sarabhyay Namaha
Om Shurabhyay Namaha.
Om Sarabhyay Namaha
Om Shurabhyay Namaha.
Om Sarabhyay Namaha
Om Shurabhyay Namaha.
Mukham karoti vachalam pangum nangayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class, continuing from Canto number 1, Chapter 9. Chapter entitled The Passing Away of Vishnudeva. And the text number is 13. 1-3. Yes. Samstite
Samstite
Tirate
Tirate
Pandau
Pandau
Pritha
Pritha,
Bala
Bala,
Praja
Praja,
Vaduhu
Vadhuhu,
Yushmat
Yushmat,
Krite
Krite,
Bahun
Bahun,
Kleshan
Kleshan,
Prapta
Prapta,
Tokavati
Tokapati,
Muhuhu
Muhuhu,
Samstite Tirate Pandau
Samstite Tirathe Pandav,
Pritha Bala Praja Vaduhu
Pritha Bala Praja Vadhuhu,
Yushmat Krite Bahun Kleshan
Yushmat Krite Bahun Kleshan,
Prapta Tobat Prapta Kovataki Prapta Kova Prapta Tokavati Muhu
Prapta Tokapati Muhuhu,
Samstite Tirate Pandau
Samstite Tirathe Pandav,
Prithak Bala Praja Vaduhu
Pritha Bala Praja Vadhuhu,
Yusmat Krite Bahun Kleshan
Yushmat Krite Bahun Kleshan,
Prapta Tokavati Muhu
Prapta Tokapati Muhuhu,
Samstite Tirate Pandau
Samstite Tirathe Pandav,
Pritha Bala Praja Vaduhu
Pritha Bala Praja Vadhuhu,
Yusmat Krite Bahun Kleshan
Yusmat Krite Bahun Kleshan,
Prapta Tokavati Muhu
Prapta Tokapati Muhuhu,
Samstite tirate Pandav
Samstite
Samstite
Tirate
Tirathe Pandav,
Pandau
Preta Bala Prajavaduhu
Pritha
Pritha
Bala
Bala
Praja
Praja
Vaduhu
Vadhuhu,
Yasmat Krite Bahun Kleshan
Yusmat
Yusmat
Krite
Krite
Bahun
Bahun
Kleshan
Kleshan,
Prapta Tokavati Muhu
Prapta
Prapta
Tokavati
Tokapati Muhuhu,
Muhu
Samstite Tirathe Pandav,
Samstite Tirate Pandau
Pritha Bala Praja Vadhuhu,
Pritha Bala Praja Vaduhu
Usmat Krite Bahun Kleshan,
Yasmat Krite Bahun Kleshan
Prapta Tokapati Muhuhu,
Prapta Tokavati Muhu
Samstite Atirate Pandav
Samstite
Samstite
Tirate
Tirathe Pandav,
Pandau
Pita Bala Prajavaduhu
Pritha
Pritha
Bala
Bala
Praja
Praja
Vaduhu
Vadhuhu,
Yasmat Krite Bahun Kleshan
Yusmat
Yusmat
Krite
Krite
Bahun
Bahun
Kleshan
Kleshan,
Prapta Tokavati Muhu
Prapta
Prapta Tokavati
Tokapati Muhuhu,
Muhu Samstite.
Samstite,
After the demise,
after the demise,
Atirate,
Atirathe
of the great general
of the great general,
Pandau,
Pandav,
Pandu,
Pandu,
Pritha,
Pritha,
Kunti,
Kunti,
Bala Praja,
Bala Praja,
having young children,
having young children,
Vaduhu,
Vadhuhu,
my daughter-in-law,
my daughter-in-law,
Yusmat Krite,
Yusmat Krite,
on your account,
on your account,
Bahun,
Bahun,
multifarious,
multifarious,
Kleshan,
creation,
afflictions,
afflictions,
Prapta,
Prapta,
underwent,
underwent,
Tokavati,
Tokavati,
in spite of having,
in spite of
having
grown up boys,
grown up boys,
Muhuhu,
Muhuhu,
constantly.
constantly.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great widow, she suffered greatly. And you were grown up, she suffered because of your actions. Kindly repeat after me. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti
As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti
is concerned,
is concerned,
upon the great general Pandu's death,
upon the great general Pandu's death,
she became a widow
she became a widow
with many children.
with many children.
and therefore she suffered greatly.
and therefore she suffered greatly.
And when you were grown up,
And when you are grown up,
she suffered a great deal.
She suffered a great deal.
She suffered a great deal also
she suffered a great deal also
because of your actions.
Because
because
of
of
your
your
actions.
actions.
Mm. Purport. The sufferings of Kunti Devi are doubly lamented. She suffered greatly because of early widowhood and to get her minor children brought up in the royal family. And when her children were grown up, she continued to suffer because of her son's actions. So her sufferings continued. This means that she was destined to suffer by providence. And this one has to tolerate without being disturbed. Mm. Translation again. As far as my daughter-in-law Kunti is concerned, upon the great general Pandu's death, she became a widow with many children, and therefore she suffered greatly. And when you were grown up, she suffered a great deal also because of your actions. So this is Grandfather Bhishmadev addressing Yudhishthira Maharaj. Um, Yesterday he began to speak, expressing how what terrible sufferings and terrible injustices Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas ago. Uh, and now he's referring to Queen Kunti Devi, who also, at a young age, lost her husband, Pandu. And here it mentions she became, early, um, early widowhood. Normally, a woman becomes a widow when the husband passes away later in life, usually, and the children are already grown up to take care of her. But sometimes, as in the case of Queen Kunti Devi, husband will no longer be present, and it makes for a very difficult situation for a lady by herself to look after children. But here it mentions how she suffered in a double way. She suffered when the children were young, because she was alone to look after them. And even when they were grown up, she continued to suffer uh, because the Pandavas, uh, actually Pandu was supposed to be the one to become the king. Uh, he died at early age, and therefore normally in the Vedic times, the sons of the king, normally the elder son, so in this case Yudhishthir, being the eldest, was meant to be enthroned as a king. So after the Pandavas, actually when they were young, they all came after the demise or death of Pandu. Then that very, we could say, pathetic scene, very touching scene, Queen Kundi Devi arrives with all of her small children at the royal palace to take shelter. And then after some time, actually, all the children, all of her sons, along with many of the sons of Dhritarashtra, they go where? They go to Gurukul. Uh, they, while playing one day, I think you know the story. They were playing, all the children, and then the ball fell in a well. And then how to get the ball? If we don't have a ball, we can't play our games. So then Dronacharya, with his expertise in Dhanurveda, so he very easily got the ball out, and everyone was amazed. And one of the most amazed persons, of course, was Arjuna, who was just a small boy. So then it was decided by, I think, Grandfather Bhishmadev, okay, now that the right person has come to give you all training. That's the thing, actually, what is very important. Unless the right person comes, isn't it? We see that in the history. The proper acharya has to come, or the proper leader has to come. And only then will things take a proper direction. So Dronacharya was the acharya for teaching both the sons of Pandu, the Pandavas, and also the sons of Dhritarashtra. And we know there's a lot of competition there. But the favorite of all of the students was Arjuna, as we know. And then after some years, they left. They were small boys, quite young. Maybe 10 years. Anyone know how long they went to Gurukul? You've not heard? Yeah. They went to, well, anyways, when they came back, they were men. Yeah, from young boys, they were men. So normally, actually, one would go to Gurukul for many years, isn't it? And after receiving, under the good guidance of the qualified teachers, then they would come back like, it was like a big event when they came back to Hastinapur, isn't it? And they had all become like expert in their particular field. Arjuna, he was the expert in bow and arrow, and Yudhishthira Maharaj was expert in
Protecting Dharma.
sword, not
Yes.
yeah,
Vallabh. Bengali call Vallabh.
yes,
Stick like a stick.
yes,
Rod.
spear, they call it spear, yeah. And then Bhima was expert in Gada, and then Nakula and Sahadev, one of them was sword, I think,
Yes.
and the other one I forget. Anyways, they all had their expertise.
They are one is expert in sword.
And sword, yeah.
And another is
Yeah, we'll forget.
I forgot.
We're not reading our Mahabharata sufficiently. And of course, they were grown up, but the rivalry, as we know, between the sons of Pandu and the sons of Dhritarashtra continued, and there's so many so many leelas, so many attempts were made to actually keep them away from their rightful position of becoming actually the leaders, or preventing Yudhishthira Maharaj actually from becoming and so many attempts were made, Hare Krishna, on their very life. I think it might be listed here Um, so Bhishma Dev, grandfather Bhishma Dev, is remembering all this, and Prabhupada is giving a hint here, which is the same point being made in the next verse. So we'll read the next verse also. And in the last sentence of the purport, Prabhupada mentioned, this means that she was destined to suffer by providence. And this one has to tolerate without being disturbed. So two very important lessons here, which again in the next verse Prabhupada will elaborate in the purport, that everything happens by providence. Everything happens based on, isn't it, our previous karma. So therefore, our acharyas explained that knowing this, we should not overly endeavor to become rich or to become popular or to become whatever. We should we should take up and execute our different duties and responsibilities, and ultimately depend on the Lord, isn't it? So this was an important aspect, is an important aspect of the Vedic culture, and was generally understood and accepted by the general population. So no one was overly ambitious, to become like that one or this one, which is when that understanding is not there, which is the case in modern day society. Everyone is heavily competing and taking so many different means and ways to cheat and whatnot to attain things that they are not destined to attain, isn't it? So destiny or providence is a very major, very important factor, which in the Vedic culture um, is much more understood and accepted than in modern day society. That is one point. The other one is, as mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, one simply needs to learn to tolerate. That is one of the basic principles that is there actually, as explained by Srila Rupa Goswami. Titikshava, that's in the Bhagavatam also. Titikshava karunika dehinam sarva, suridam sarva dehinam. Titikshava, being tolerant, suridam, titikshava, karunika, being compassionate also. Having genuine care and affection actually for all living entities, and Suridam being the well-wisher, like Krishna. Krishna is the well-wisher of all living entities. And Vaishnavas, who are meant to represent the Lord, who are meant to display the same qualities as the Lord, also need to display this quality of compassion to all living entities. So we'll go to the next verse, which is a continuation actually. This text number 14. Sarvam akala kritam mamanye
Sarvam kala kritam manye
bhavatam macha yad apriyam
bhavatam cha yad apriyam
sapalo yad vashe loko
sapala
sapalo
yad
yad
vashe loko
vayor iva ghana varihi.
vayariva ghana balihi.
Translation and purport. In my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time, under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. So time, yeah, actually providence and destiny is carried out by kala, by the time factor, isn't it? And Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, I am time, kala. So purport, there is control by time all over the space within the universe, as there is control by time all over the planets. All the big, gigantic planets, including the sun, are being controlled by the force of air, as the clouds are carried by the force of air. Similarly, the inevitable kala, or time, control even the action of the air and other elements. Everything, therefore, is controlled by the supreme kala, a forceful representative of the Lord within the material world. Thus, Yudhishthira should not be sorry for the inconceivable action of time. Everyone has to bear the actions and reactions of time as long as one is within the conditions of the material world. That's why Prabhupada, he would speak about the stringent laws, the very strong, forceful laws of material nature that are controlling everyone and controlling everything, controlling the weather, uh, controlling heat, cold, rain, uh, sometimes cyclones. All of these things is uh, as long as we are living in this material world, we are bound by this um, very strong factor of kala, or time. And to continue in the purport, Yudhishthir should not think that he had committed sins in his previous birth and is suffering the consequence. Even the most pious has to suffer the condition of material nature. But a pious man is faithful to the Lord, for he is guided by the bona fide Brahmana and Vaishnava following the regulative principles. These three guiding principles should be the aim of life. What three guiding principles? Bona fide Brahmana, Vaishnava,
Yes, who
and
is following the religious principles.
yes, so Dharma. Dharma, which is, um, well, following the Lord and those who are especially representing the Lord, the Brahmanas in society, and Vaishnavas. Yeah. These three guiding principles should be the aim of life. One should not be disturbed by the tricks of eternal time. The tricks of eternal time. Even the great controller of the universe, Brahmaji, is also under the control of that time. Therefore, one should not grudge being thus controlled by time despite being a true follower of religious principles. So that is everyone's condition in the material world. Uh, we are all under the very tight control of the material energy, which is especially, well, the two factors. These are two of the powerful factors that are described in the Bhagavad Gita. Prakriti, material nature, which is intimately connected with Kala, isn't it? So Kala, the time factor. And of course, depending on our activities, then we create karma. And so these um, these five tattvas which are presented in the Bhagavad Gita are actually unknown to most people. Isn't it? Most people, they may know that there's something up there, some kind of control, but they have no idea what it is. And of course, some people don't even believe in God, isn't it? So, and they have little understanding of who they are in terms of being a spirit soul. So, therefore, these five tattvas are the preliminary tattvas that all human beings need to nicely understand. Uh, Ishvara, Jiva, then Prakriti, Kala, and then
Karma.
Karma. So our Shastra explain how the first four are eternal factors. We cannot um, we cannot undo or none of these four factors um, are temporary. Naturally, God is eternal, Jiva also, and the influence mm, the influence of both the time factor and material energy is constantly in very subtle, inconceivable ways controlling our each and every action, isn't it? And of course, the one which is fortunately not eternal is karma. Karma, by proper cultivation of knowledge, um, can come to an end. We can put an end to karma. Mm. We understand from Shastra that the only way to put an end to karma is to fully revive our original nature as eternal servants of Krishna, means the process of bhakti or devotional service. So as long as we are in the material world, the more we understand the workings of material nature. It's just like if you go to a new temple, of course, temples within our society, the same practices are there, but still there are differences you have to adjust. Or if we go, let's say, to another country, that's more easy. Or maybe even to another state. Let's say you're from um, uh, Andhra or Telangana, you come to Bengal, as we are here. Language is different, culture is different, so many things are different, we have to adjust. So there's so many, material world is full of varieties. Um, these varieties exist in the material world because they originally are there in the spiritual world, isn't it? And wherever we may go in the material world, whether it's from one temple to another temple, from one country to another country, from one body to another body, the same basic principles are there, which is actually suffering in so many ways. And even this is the example here, and we have many such examples in the Bhagavatam. Even somebody becomes a very great devotee because one is in the material world. Of course, here it mentions how Yudhisthira Maharaj, specifically Prabhupada explains, he's suffering not because of sinful activities in his previous life. Most of us in the material world, we suffer because of our previous sinful activities. But very often, great personalities who are eternal associates of the Lord, even they may suffer in the material world because material world is stamped as a dukkhalayam shasvatam, is a place of misery, mrityu loka. Everyone who comes here uh, also has to leave the body. So, um, so the only remedy, what is the remedy for suffering? There are two. What are the two remedies for suffering? We were reading in the previous verse. In Indonesia, they have a nice expression. They use the same word. They call it toleransi, tolerance. Tolerance. Yeah, as we discussed a few minutes ago, um, tolerance is a fundamental quality that actually that only Vaishnavas can fully manifest because they have the proper understanding that it is arranged by Krishna, either connected with my previous sinful activities or it is Krishna's arrangement. These are the two reasons. And what is the other way to stop suffering? To not again be born in the material world. That is a big science. How not to be born again. Because as Prabhupada explains, when we leave this body, now we have, every day we have a choice, either to come to Mangalarti or not to come to Mangalarti, to come to Mangalarti on time or not to come to Mangalarti on time. It goes into detail then. But once we leave this body, as Prabhupada explains, we're totally in the hands of material nature. Now we have some little choice, but once we leave this body, everything will be determined on what we have done in this life, isn't it? So therefore, the more we understand this, we will endeavor to be dharmic. We will endeavor to understand and to follow the principles of dharma. And in this way, the suffering may not immediately stop, but we will, uh, by becoming more, actually, one thing which is also explained is that the suffering will not stop because that's the nature of the material world, but this the effect of suffering, or the because actually when one becomes more absorbed in that higher consciousness, which is devotional consciousness, there are two major results, very important also, that happens the more one becomes absorbed in activities of devotional service. The more our consciousness actually becomes purified and elevated, then what happens? Two very important things happen. One is in connection with suffering. The first one is that we transcend the modes of material nature. Because unless we learn to transcend the modes of material nature, we are constantly being distracted, attracted, distracted. And as long as there is even a small tinge of connection with the modes of material nature, means as long as we have even one small material desire, Krishna will arrange that we take birth to fulfill that material desire. So pure devotional service brings one to that platform where one will no longer be affected by the gunas, the modes of material nature, number one. Secondly, which should be of interest also to all of us, secondly, when one actually elevates his consciousness, purifies his consciousness, which is through the process of pure devotional service, then one also transcends the threefold miseries of life, which are constantly uh, disturbing all the living entities. Adhyatmic, adibhotik, adidaivik. Uh, no one is spared actually from these three influences of the material nature only when one attains that elevated, uh, purified consciousness, one will not be disturbed. The influence will be there, means the miseries of material nature will be surrounding us, but our consciousness will not be affected. So until we reach that level, uh, we have to tolerate, and we have to uh, make a daily effort, especially through sadhana. Through sadhana, the more we are, that's why Srila Prabhupada would stress the importance, our acharyas stress the importance of developing a strong sadhana. Even though we may not always be uh, liking to do so many things, sadhana means actually to do things even if we don't like to do. Knowing and understanding that this is how we will become gradually purified and strong in our consciousness. So like this, Grandfather Bhishmadev will be uh, instructing Yudhishthira these important instructions from him. So any thoughts or questions on this?
I think everything of our life is happened by previous karma. It's happened by previous karma, but our reaction only matter.
Our reaction is also due to karma?
No, our our reaction is 50% karma by karma, not and other 50% not by karma.
What is the reference for that? 50% is
50% means what we gain knowledge by how by our karma we gain knowledge, and and by our knowledge we give reaction, and other 50% means our what
the,
should do in this situation.
um, uh, our acharyas explained that if we have performed pious activities in our previous lives, then we will come in contact with those who are following dharma. The more we perform good activities, pious activities, we come in contact with devotees. And then we learn the process of uh, ultimately of bhakti or devotional service, and we come to know that we have minute independence, and that once we have knowledge, the more we properly utilize that minute independence for the proper uh, activity. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the two ways or two roads or two paths, two marga, pravriti marga and nivriti marga. So becoming dharmic means to know and understand the difference between pravritti marga and nivritti marga. What is to be done, what is not to be done. Pravrittim cha, nivrittim cha, janana vidur asura. If we don't know, we are of asuric mentality means impure consciousness. So once we are in knowledge, then we can begin to make the right choice. Until we are situated in knowledge, we're totally under the law of karma. We are forced to act in so many different ways. When we have knowledge, then we can have proper understanding. Okay, this is in keeping with dharma, or this is not in keeping with dharma. That choice we have. Before having this knowledge, we are like animals. Animal actually, they just suffer their previous karma. They don't create more karma. See? But in the human form of life, we suffer previous karma. Let's say, even before we come to Krishna consciousness, we suffer a previous karma and we continue to create karma. Because in the human form of life, we are meant to cultivate knowledge. Human beings have that opportunity, that gift, that very rare gift. And if we don't cultivate that proper knowledge, then we increase our karma for which we have to suffer. So therefore the importance, that's why in the Vedic culture, from the even before one is born, one is receiving knowledge even within the womb of one's mother. Different activities are performed, different samskaras are performed, which create a very sattvic atmosphere. And if one is fortunate, that's why it is so rare and so fortunate to be born in a Vaishnava family. Prabhupada explains actually in one place how there are two factors that can very much help one to become freed from all karmic reaction and to become liberated from this material world. Two very, we could say, two rare situations that even today, of course, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, this is becoming more and more possible. But still it is rare. What are those two rare things?
Being born in a Vaishnava family.
Being born in a Vaishnava family. You know, I was not born in a Vaishnava family. Were you born in a Vaishnava family? You born? You? See, it's rare. None of us were born in a Vaishnava family. That is number one. Second,
cultivating the knowledge.
how cultivating knowledge, that is, of course, true. But how that is possible?
So there is first is human life.
No, first is human life in Vaishnava family. First is to be born in a Vaishnava family. Yeah. Second is to have the good opportunity of Guru, to have the opportunity of coming in contact with this knowledge through bona fide spiritual master. In Guru Parampara, we are lost in this material world. Yeah. So through Guru Parampara, we get knowledge, isn't it? We're reading Prabhupada's. The knowledge is coming in Guru Parampara. So these two factors are like, we are trying to more and more people will get this opportunity to be born in a Vaishnava family, isn't it? Prabhupada used to, these children who are born in our devotee family, they're very special, very unique. Yeah,
Goloka children.
yes. Actually, maybe some from Goloka and some from Svargaloka.
Yes.
It is said that since the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, since the last 500 plus years, because something very unique is taking place on this planet. Only devotees know what that is, what that unique something is, which means the whole mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it is explained how demigods are waiting in line to be born in devotee families so that they can be part of the Hare Krishna movement.
Mahaprabhu's Leelas.
Yes. So demigods from Svargaloka or other souls, maybe from Goloka, they are the ones who will, by being born in Vaishnava families, will become very strong devotees. And the more such devotees we have, then the more preaching activities, the more conditioned souls we can attract, isn't it, to Mahaprabhu's mission. So that devotee means he's always having that consciousness in mind that we call missionary spirit, isn't it? How to perform this para upakar, yeah, welfare, because we know, we are convinced that the only way the suffering of humanity can end is by cultivating this knowledge. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question, Maharaj,
Yes.
that how are we know that who person he is not have previous sinful activities, but they suffering in this matter. Uh, we are we are how are we know that person actually not sinful activity but suffering?
Now, first thing is that okay. The question is how to know between two persons which one is suffering due to previous sinful activities. So the first point regarding this is that it's none of our business. Not so important. Not so important to know, why this person is suffering. Second point is that we should assume that actually the vast majority of living entities in the material world are here in the material world because of karma. We have taken birth because of sinful activities, and we are suffering different types of suffering because of previous sinful activities. When we read a purport like today, this morning, where our acharyas are explaining that this person, Yudhishthira Maharaj, is suffering, but it is not due to sinful activities, then we can accept. Otherwise, if we don't read it in a book somewhere, yeah. So we should not be,
Thank you.
yeah. The general situation for the living entities, including Brahma, because Brahma is Jiva, but a very special Jiva because he has.
He is also controlled by Kala.
Everyone is controlled by Kala in the material world. Even these great devotees who were not sinful in previous lives are controlled by Kala. Who's not controlled by Kala? Krishna. Because he's Kala. Right.
And Balarama
Balaram also not controlled.
not also sometimes we controlled by Krishna. Krishna's Maya. When Brahma still cow and cow had voice, Balaram know after 1 year.
That's not because Balaram is forgetful because he was having a birthday party. He wasn't there. Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. Balaram is never forgetting. Balaram is Krishna. He's same as Krishna. Expansion of Krishna. Okay, I heard the bell. Kala is reminding. Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada
Bhakti Raga
ki
Maharaj.
Jai.